Who needs castles today anyway? I want to thank the organizers and my old friends in Ukraine who made this conference possible and for me to stay in touch with you all. Let me first say, what will I say? I will try to introduce myself, then I give examples of some castles around Europe, something about organization, and I will end off with a little conclusion. My name is Roeland Paardekooper, and I worked with museums all my life, as advisor everywhere and in leading positions in museums in the Netherlands, Denmark, and now Germany. I studied archaeology because I'm interested in people like you and I, in the present but also from the past. I currently coordinate the largest digitalization project in the German museum world. No, I do not scan things myself. My task is to talk, to help my staff, and to try to identify problems before they happen, and that's not easy. My hometown Gotha hoards maybe 2 million objects. And when colleagues ask me if we have this or that, I almost always must admit that yes, we got that. East Asian ceramics, Egyptian mummies, meteorites, bows and arrows from anywhere. And these are the physical remains of an international network spanning around the world for maybe 300-400 years, I would say. And digitalization brings back the stories behind each object. Now I would like to give you 5 examples of different castles, and we will travel 8,000 kilometers in a couple of minutes. We start in Tustan, only 400 kilometers from Zvyagel. Maybe I do not need to mention the medieval cliffside fortress Tustan, but I do anyway, for the non-Ukrainian audience. Colleague Vasil Roshko presented it very well to us recently in a great online video. The site is about 100 kilometers away from Lviv. The Tustan story goes back to the 1970s, when the first graphic reconstructions were made, and now continued with modern techniques like laser scanning, photogrammetry, and although no castle present, the site attracts hundreds of thousands of visitors at large festivals. Equally important, however, is that Roshko and his colleagues have become very professional in making 3D models and documentation according to the highest international standards, something which was important before the war, vital now, and a great benefit for the Ukraine cultural sector also after the war. Now from Tustan we travel 2,000 kilometers and we arrive in the middle of France, at Guédelon. It's a building site, a construction site if you like. Their motto is Fanatics for a Fortress, at least that was the title of one of their books. It's important to mention this is not a site museum. It's not an original site, it's totally fake. Building started at the end of the 1990s to make a new castle in the way it could have been done in the 13th century. They have about 200,000-300,000 visitors annually. Focus is on traditional crafts and techniques, which can only be kept alive by practicing those. So when in 2019 the Notre Dame in Paris burned, staff from Guédelon became part of the reconstruction team. Guédelon is a private undertaking, resulting in an attractive visitor experience, solid research, and an active craft community. We move on. This time we go 1,300 kilometers further to Scotland. Stirling Castle was the residence of the Kings of Scotland from about 1100 until 1603. It plays a role in many colourful Scottish stories with protagonists like William the Lion, Robert the Bruce, and Mary, Queen of Scots. In the early 2000s, they spent £12 million to return the royal lodging to something approaching their former glory. Many objects were reconstructed in high quality, and the site now attracts over 600,000 visitors per year. But I present Stirling Castle here as a beautiful example of accessibility done right. A colleague from Microsoft explained, so much thought went into the experience and some great best practices to borrow if you're looking to make your space accessible included our clear signage of accessible routes, what was and wasn't easy to get to, audio and guided tours, and every video was captioned and signed. elevators and powered automatic doors in a castle with huge stone walls and doors. Ramps everywhere and little collapsible chairs in rooms to use in some of the walking areas. Store on site providing wheelchairs and scooters. Perfect? No. It's a castle from the 11th century on a hill. But everything is clearly marked and the staff were so helpful. Now we move on to Denmark. 2000 kilometers if we travel via Belgium, or 800 kilometers as the crow flies. Spøttrup Borg dates to the 16th century and is unique for Denmark because it has remained relatively unchanged for 500 years. That is partly due to neglect since the Reformation until it was bought by the state about 100 years ago. The castle plays an important role in the local community. It is a large part of people's identity and self-awareness, and there's a great willingness to support the place. The chance is that I can create a complete, immersive, tactile learning experience about 16th century Scandinavia that can focus on the Reformation, the Renaissance, humanism, etc., all in the form of sensory learning experiences. Their biggest challenges are the national conservation authorities, who are quite restrictive, even with elements that are only 80-year-old reconstructions. Fake, if you want to call it. Now, from Denmark, we move to our last example, Friedenstein in Germany. It's only 800 kilometers. Our castle here was built in the 17th century on the remains of a much earlier castle. Friedenstein has been an important center in a large network of the local nobility from about 1640 until 1918. They were included in several European royal families. Queen Victoria was, for example, married with a member of the family here, Prince Albert. Friedenstein Castle is quite large and hosts, for example, an original Baroque theatre. Behind the castle we find a ducal museum constructed around 1870. And the large gardens are worth mentioning as well. Our main unique selling point is our collection, which I mentioned before. The task is now to share the collection online. But we have more challenges. The buildings are one of those. But maybe our biggest challenge is branding. We are in the region. We do not have a single story to tell. In theory, we have something for and about everybody. But we can only play a role in cooperation with others. Our relevance stems from the old network we were part of and the development of the culture and tourism infrastructure right now in this part of Germany. So, traveling from here back to Zvyagel is 1500 kilometers. Just saying. I think each of you can see something in these 5 examples, but besides this inspiration, I could recommend the following. Be professional, be honest, manage expectations, have a good attitude towards authenticity. Not everything is a scientific experiment or scientific publication. Also invest in your people, create a diverse team, nerds in history, tourism, IT, storytellers, and a few good managers. And always give new people and young people a chance. Yeah, but do not try this at home. What I mean to say, castles are important for culture, for crafts, science, creativity, but my visitors are not your visitors. What works elsewhere may serve as inspiration, but cannot be copied one-to-one. All castles are different and should be. So back in 2012, when I did my PhD at the University of Exeter in the UK, I collected many small observations and ideas. Some of these are maybe still relevant, and I divided them in 6 themes. If I start with management and finances as one theme, I would say a castle is not a playground. You need to be balanced between a content and authenticity model on the one side and a business model on the other side. And make sure you know both the explicit aims and implicit motives of you and your stakeholders. Use management tools, collect data. For example, critical incident analysis is not enough. If we talk about staff, the second theme, the human factor is most important. And I relate to the people of the past, your staff, your visitors, all of these. Brings me to retaining staff. It's good if you have people coming back to you, staying with you as staff members, because you can invest in them, and that makes the quality of the whole place better. Included in this is structuring works and responsibilities. If we then move to collections, make your castle visible in professional and academic circles. That means going to conferences or inviting colleagues over, peers. Also document and digitize your collections and prioritize restoration and maintenance. Then marketing. It should be fit for purpose. Use the right media channels to reach the right target groups at the right moment. Visitors do not know what to expect. You do, they don't. Create and nourish marketing partnerships, because you cannot do it alone. Mark your USPs, your location, your stories. And then we move on to interpretation. This is the backbone of your castle, and with this I mean education, your tour guides, your website, everything explaining your story. And be ambitious in your message to the public. Do not underestimate them and do not consider them all one and the same. Combine live interpretation like reenactment with other methods, like going digital, for example. And then finally I come to visitor service. This is, let's say, before the visit, during the visit, and after the visit. Before, make sure you're accessible, have clear signposting. During the visit, a good cafe and playground are the start. Appeal to all senses during the visit, because else people could just as well have read a book. And after the visit or at the end of the visit, make sure you have a good shop and polite staff. Now, coming slowly to my conclusion, why does it work? Why do these castles work? Well, it revolves around two words. Location, location, location. Make it an impressive on-site experience. And the second word, relevance. The past is a mirror for the present. Our castles are important. We stand on the shoulders of giants. Those people before us serve as our examples. Without them, no castles and no museums either. But our current friends and colleagues, nearby and far away, are equally important. And allow me to add one more thing about relevance. The internationality of our collections here at Friedenstein Castle characterizes us here. This global perspective also includes an understanding of the foreign and the other. Friedenstein Castle was built in the hope of a better world among the terrible 30 Years' War. The ever-present hope for peace between people is inscribed in our architecture. Above our main entrance, you will find Pax et Justitia. That, colleagues, is the tradition we stand in. I want to thank you for your attention, and do please contact us anytime.